Hey, my name is Takwa, and I'm a third year medical student working with Wisconsin Voices for Recovery to bring you Saturday Night Chat. Saturday Night Chat is a monthly chat that creates a space for people to share their recovery journey and to show people in and seeking recovery that they're not alone and that recovery is possible. Today, we'll be hearing from Wes.
Hi, Takwa. Thank you for the invite and the opportunity to kind of share my story and potentially help other people. Um, yeah, my name is Wes. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, or I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been here originally. I'm a kind of California bred, but I've been here in Wisconsin for about 23 years now. Um, let's see. I love to read. I'm kind of an avid reader. Love historical fiction. Love thrillers, suspense, mystery.
Hmm.
Um, I have four kids who are kind of um, my love and joy and passion in life. And then I have a 5-year-old Great Dane. His name's Opie. He's kind of a big boy. He's 180, just shy of 180 pounds.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I guess that's just a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Your dog sounds so cute. So big.
He's a big ham. He's a big I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to show him over there,
Aw,
but
there he
he's a
is.
big ham bone.
I love it. Awesome. So how did you get connected to Wisconsin Voices for Recovery?
Yeah, so I was at the recent recovery rally a few months ago at the Capitol, and I was volunteering there with, or kind of helping to support my girlfriend. She works for a company called Rehab Path, um, and they kind of connect individuals with treatment centers and treatment facilities. And it's a local business, but has international ties and that sort of thing. So I was there her with her kind of really just standing by her and being a presence at their table. And so it was an opportunity for me to I've been to several of the Wisconsin Voices for Recovery functions in the past, but it was a great day. It was a great day to kind of get connected, network, meet more people. And kind of this opportunity came up to kind of sign up for being able to share your story if you felt comfortable. And so that's kind of how I got connected and why I'm here.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it too.
Um, so would you mind sharing a little bit about your story?
Yeah, you kind of you think you know your story, right? But then you get in front of a
Mhm.
camera and you're like, dang, where do I go? Where do I start?
Mhm.
Because there's just so but like so many people, I'm sure there's just so there's so much, and we can't really touch on all of it, nor do we probably
Mhm.
need to. But um, for myself, I'm here in January. I'll be 4 years completely sober. Alcohol was my substance of choice with some pretty significant and negative consequences associated with my use for quite a long time. Um, I think looking back, my recovery and everything that I've done in my recovery, it's really given me an opportunity to dig deep and maybe try and understand my drinking, understand my behavior, and my substance use disorder. And looking back, I was never really a good drinker or a normal drinker. I didn't have a ton of experience with drinking in high school, a little bit here and there, like a lot of high school students maybe do. But I was always looking back. I always tended to be um, a binger. I was always an all or nothing um, sort of a drinker. So it didn't really like develop into a, once a week drinking or, have 2 beers and then a couple months later, now it's 4 beers or one bottle of wine or whatever it might be. I was kind of an all or nothing sort of a drinker. Really early on and kind of just right off the bat. Alcoholism does run in my family. Addiction runs in my family. But in undergrad, it really started out for me. I was a weekend binger primarily, still maintained, I was kind of high functioning, still maintained, um, extremely good grades in undergrad. And my undergrad, I was in California at Humboldt State University, and I majored in chemistry and zoology. And my end goal was veterinary medical school. And um, my wife and I moved from California to Wisconsin. She was originally from this area, or my now ex-wife, but go into that later. That was a consequence of my drinking for sure. But she was from this area, and at the time, I had to make a decision of UC Davis or UW, and we ended up moving to Wisconsin. There was some accreditation things that UC Davis was going through, and we made the decision. Okay, she was going to apply to grad school, and if she got in, then we'd go ahead and make the move to Wisconsin. So moving to Wisconsin was definitely the drinking culture here is much different than what it is, or at least what my experience was with it in California, and it really um, opened. That's when I really started to drink a little bit more heavily initially.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the crap stuff. I mean, it was 30, buying a 30 pack or what case of Busch Light or whatever it was, and Pabst. And it was just a very different experience. And I was always a closet sort of a drinker, or an alone sort of a drinker, in the garage sort of a drinker, even way back then, and during my full-fledged, full-blown uh, kind of addiction, addiction. And I would label myself back then a pretty high-functioning alcoholic, and then all the way through, I was able to maintain really good grades in undergrad. Got into vet school here at UW. My drinking did die down during vet school quite a bit, just because I didn't have the time, or maybe more importantly, I didn't make the time for it. And it wasn't a full-blown addiction, but I would still periodically sort of, binge. And fast forward a few years, and there was kind of a period of time where my drinking really did start to ramp up. And there was, now looking back and working with counselor and digging back into things, there was a period of time where, in a very short time span, there was a number of three in particular, of just life events that really, in my mind, lit the fuse, per se, with my drinking. I lost my father, who was my best friend in life. Lost him he was relatively young. He was 65 when he died, and there was so many things we had planned to do in life together, and that was a big blow, to me. I There was the birth of my twins. I have four children. So I had, at the time, I lost my father not long afterwards. Then the birth of my twins. So I had four kids under the age of 5. My twins were preemies, and they had monitors on them for 6 months or so after coming home from the hospital and the NICU. And that was a very stressful sort of a time of lack of sleep, and trying to rotate some hours of sleep between the two of us. And also around that same time, I opened a business. So I opened a veterinary clinic, or purchased a veterinary clinic, and became the sole business owner, and moved the practice. So there was a lot of things and the high stress that came along with that. And once again, I don't make excuses. For me, it helps to understand maybe what some things that happened that led me down the path that I went down. And there was a 2-year period where, after my twins were born and the business, my father dying, and I acknowledged that and knew that I was, not that alcohol was a problem. And at that point, I was able to just cold turkey, white knuckle it, cold turkey, stop drinking, didn't see a counselor, didn't go to groups or meetings or, any of the multiple pathways of recovery that one can choose. I just chose, I'm going to stop. And I did. And I stopped for just a little over 2 years. I had 2 years of sobriety under my belt. And that little feeling enters your brain at some point in time of, oh, I can do that. I can drink again. Like I don't have a problem. I can just have one, or I could just have two. And once again, my old nemesis was there. Like, no, you can't, man. Like, you don't just have a glass of wine. You have two bottles of wine, or whatever that might be. So I once again had turned to alcohol, feeling like that was my refuge. That was um, my numbing agent, my dumbing down agent, my stress relief sort of an agent. And it really led me down a pretty dark, dark path. And uh, negative consequences started to add up. My extremely bad choices started to exacerbate those negative consequences more and more. And I hurt people, just the things you do as an addict or an alcoholic, the lies, the deception, and it really impacted my life in a very negative way. I had a DUI that didn't open my eyes. Um, I should have had a second DUI, but with COVID, it was the early start of COVID when I was going through the legal process with that. They ended up, because they didn't have time to deal with it, they reduced it to a reckless driving, but I should have had two on my record. That didn't necessarily wake me up. Um, a lot of people feel like you have to hit rock bottom before you can, pull yourself up. And, for me, it wasn't like that. I mean, if I had to hit rock bottom, I mean, you'd think I would have already been there with a lot of the things that I had experienced, but I just didn't. There was, for me, it was, and I can't, I can give you the date. I mean, the date was January 29th of, it was January 29th in 2020. And I woke up that morning, obviously, I was hungover, feeling like shit. And it was one of those eye-opening experiences for me where I finally just had that feeling of enough is enough. Like, stop this insanity. Like, what are you doing? And I think a lot of that, what might have precipitated that sort of a feeling was I was going through a divorce, and I ran the risk of losing my kids, of being able to have joint custody with my kids, being able to have them 50% of the time and have a good relationship, a good co-parenting relationship with their mother. And I had tried lots of things to try and get sober previously, but I never was doing it for me. I was always doing it for other people, my kids or my ex-wife or my parents, or anything. I was trying to do it for other people, but until I finally was ready to do it for myself, that's when things really started to stick. And that eye-opening moment was finally just realizing, like, my life is completely shit right now. I'm going to lose my kids. I'm going to lose my business. Um, and so that ultimately was the thing that kind of started to get me down that road to recovery.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, and it's my job now, and I can go into it in a little bit, but I definitely had a career shift here relatively recently from being a veterinarian and all the things that come in. A business owner. I sold my business, and I really wanted to give back to what we refer to as my peers. So I made a decision that I really wanted a change in direction in my life, and so I'm a certified peer support specialist now, and a recovery coach. I work for an organization here in Madison called Safe Communities, um, where we provide services to help other individuals that are going through similar life experiences that we've lived, and then receive the training to kind of help. And anybody can get the services, they're free of charge. And so that's my new passion in life. And one of the things that we really adhere to, and which was important during my recovery, and still, almost approaching 4 years, still is acknowledging that there's no one right way for recovery. And there's multiple, what we refer to as multiple pathways of recovery. um, for myself, I didn't go to an inpatient treatment. Some people, they've been there several times, or many times. Part of that for me was because I made every excuse under the book to not go. I'm running a business. I have, dozens of people depending on me, and I have kids. Every excuse. It was an excuse, really. But I don't know if doing that would have gotten me sober sooner or not. But my pathway for recovery was a lot about, once again, I was doing it for myself. I found ways to be accountable, and to be held accountable. Um, so I did IOP. I've done relapse prevention programs, um, meditation programs, and courses. Um, Done AA, did SMART, recovery Dharma, refuge recovery, um, and then a lot of self-care. And it wasn't until I really found what was going to work for me. And really, I had to try all those things, or a lot of different things, to really find what was going to work for me. Um, and there were some relapses along the way initially, until that day hit of finally, boom, you got this. You have a support network around you, and off you go. Some of the things that, sometimes my peers will ask me, what did you do in early recovery to, for self-care? I love to read. So I was reading a ton. I was filling my time with things. Reading, I binged shows. So I like watched the whole Game of Thrones in a week. And so I was on watching a lot of movies and shows, and getting back into yoga. Um, Yoga was really important for me, especially in early sobriety. Um, I decided to hike the Ice Age Trail, and so I haven't completed it yet, but that was a big part of my early recovery, early on, where I've completed half of it. God, I haven't done a section now in probably 2 years, so it really was an early recovery thing for me. Um, but yeah, those are kind of some of my pathways that led to eventually being able to string together now almost 4 years, and have that support network around me, and tools on my tool belt, per se, to be able to handle the things that before I didn't feel like I could handle, and that I needed a substance to try and handle.
Yeah. Congratulations on almost 4 years. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Wasn't easy. It's never easy, right? Um, but I'm very, very happy to be where I'm at today. I can remember in early recovery, it hit like around 6 weeks for me, 6 weeks of continuous sobriety, where it was like the clouds just seemed to part. They just seemed to open. And I was feeling so much better. It happens earlier than that, but I can just vividly remember like the 6 week mark of just like waking up one morning and just feeling alive again, and clear in the head, and able to face the challenges that I was still facing, because of my substance use, but realizing that I could face them in a much more positive way. So yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. Um, and some of the advice that I feel like I heard you say was, it sounds like really prioritizing yourself and the things that you really like to enjoy. in your recovery is really important. And yeah, finding things you like to enjoy, getting connected and trying different things and seeing what works for you.
And that's important, like it's really important to find those things that are going to work for you, because what works for the person sitting next to you or somebody else in recovery may not work at all for you. And so it is a matter of trying to find what works for you. And when it clicks, and being accepting and giving yourself some grace
Mm-hmm.
of, you went left when everybody was telling you to go right. And yeah, you might have hit a roadblock. You might have relapsed, you might have whatever, but you found something out. You gained some information of knowing. And it's hard to see somebody do that, right? It's hard to it's hard to see somebody relapse, but it's a fact that it happens, and
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Give yourself some grace and keep moving forward. Um, and that it's okay. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And that help can come in a variety of manners. I'm blessed right now to be able to help people that are going through what I was going through, to be able to help them kind of walk alongside them as they try and figure out what their recovery is going to look like. And um, so I'm very blessed to be able to do that now. Um, it's hard work, but the work is good. The work is good. Um, One of the things I know you touched on, I mentioned accountability. And you mentioned a lot of things just a minute ago about, some of the things I did and things like that. But that one other piece that I just wanted to touch on for me, that I think was very instrumental in my recovery, was, and this isn't for everybody, but for me, I had an accountability piece of using a device called Soberlink. And ultimately, I mean, the reason I had to start using it was because if I was going to be able to see my kids, I had to prove that I was not drinking. And so, and that was I was staring down the barrel of that gun of, Wes, if you don't get this shit together, like, you're not going to have a relationship with your kids.
Could you explain a little bit more about what the device is?
Yeah, yeah. And that was hard. That was really hard. But anyways, so in a sense, that Soberlink device was forced on me, but it was probably the best thing that probably could have happened. So what it is, it's the device is called Soberlink. It's an independent company um, that essentially monitors. It's a breathalyzer that monitors blood alcohol levels and reports that to the people that need to have that information reported to. So in my case, or my instance, that was um, my ex-wife, and that was the guardian ad litem that we were working with, to allow me to continue to see my kids. And I had lost them to the point where I was at like being able to see them 30% of the time. And in order to see them more, I needed to prove continuous sobriety. And so it's a breathalyzer that the one I used, it was cellular. So I would take a test 6 times during the day. Initially, it was 6 times. It got slowly as you're doing better. Then my times that I had the test would go down, but initially it was 6 times a day. Um, so several in the morning, several in the afternoon, several in the evening. And it's a facial recognition device. You blow into it. Um, it snaps a picture of you as you're taking it. It goes to the company, gets uploaded to the company. They get the result. They facial recognize, verify that it's you, and then they send that result to the individuals, that I have allowed to see my results. And yeah, at first for me, it was a very like, it was not a good feeling. I felt like you were being babysat. But what I kind of turned it into a positive, and it really was that accountability piece that I needed, um, to hold myself accountable and it would have consequences if I tested positive. And it's a very, very sensitive device. If you chewed gum 20 minutes before you took a test, it would turn up positive, and you'd have to retest within 15 minutes, or it deems it a positive test. And any positive test I would have, I would lose my kids more of a percentage back. The longer I showed 100% sobriety, then I slowly, over a period of 6 months, worked up back to 50-50. But at first, I didn't like that. I felt like I was being babysat. But eventually, I recognized it for what it was. It was a tool. It was another tool in my toolbox. And I don't know if I'd be sitting here sober today if I didn't have that part of my recovery. It really is a part of my recovery. And I did that for 2 years straight, or 2 years of showing 100% sobriety for 2 years. And then the use was discontinued. But I chose to look at it as every single test that I took was a little bit, I don't know, as they say, it was a little bit of a middle finger to the system, to the people that felt like I couldn't do this, to the people that thought I was some horrible human being. And so I just looked at it every single time I took that test, and I knew I was going to blow 0.0000. And I knew that test was going to land in some email inboxes. It was kind of like, yep, look at that. Look at that there, and but it was an important piece for me. But so many different pieces were working with a counselor, an AODA counselor, who I still see. I've been seeing her for 6 years, and I still see her. Just saw her this morning, actually, at 8 a.m. Yeah. I feel like I'm rambling. Sorry.
Oh, no, no. I appreciate you kind of talking more about it. So, yeah, I feel like initially that must have been really, really difficult, but I really like how you kind of changed your mindset about it and kind of use it as like more of a positive tool. I think mindset is really strong. Like it can have
For
a
sure.
big impact on just how we think and how we get through our lives. So that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because you could have, your mindset could be, bah!
Yeah.
And that just keeps you in the addiction, and you just kind of say, screw it, I don't want to be monitored.
Mhm.
But it worked for me. May not work for other people, and that's part of the multiple pathways to recovery and through recovery. And it's not a part of my recovery anymore. But I have so many other things that are, I'm going to be in recovery the rest of my life. Like, I fully acknowledge that. I'm not somebody who thinks that, maybe in 5 years sobriety, maybe I can drink normal. Fuck, I already tried that how many times and it didn't work. So I know that it's not going to work, and I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need that in my life. Like, life is so good now without it, and so good.
Amazing. Yeah. And now you're working to help other people in recovery as well. Correct.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's really
And
amazing.
it's a blessing to be able to do that. And I get to work with people from all walks of life. And I have some peers that are homeless, and so in addition to substance use, we're trying to support them through, not being homeless and living at shelters or not having food. And I also have peers that are in jail. Granted, they're abstinent. It's a forced abstinence right now, but you get to help talk to them. You get to be there for them, support them, and when they get out, you can be working with them on a plan for, well, when you get out, every other time you've gotten out, you go right back to using, and you come right back here because of it. So let's get a plan in place. What would you like to do? What can we try? So yeah, it's really nice to be able to give back into, because I know what a struggle it was. And you know, people are hurting, and you want to be able to help support them. And we don't do things for them, or I don't do things for them, but I get to walk alongside them. And when they want to try something, say, great, let's try it. When they don't want to try it anymore, then I can give them what other options there are, and they can make a choice from there. So yeah, I enjoy it a lot.
That's amazing.
And just to give a shout out, like, so the organization I work with is called Safe Communities, and anybody can call We staff a helpline that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to where you're always going to get a warm body. And you can get a referral. We can fill out a referral right over the phone, and then you can work with a peer support specialist or a recovery coach. In addition to other things that maybe they're doing in their recovery, or maybe they have no recovery right now whatsoever, and they don't know what to do, which is really common. But at Safe Communities, our services are free. Anybody can get a recovery coach. The 1-800 number is 888-811-3689, extension 1. And like I said, 24/7. But I wish I would have had something like this. There's a big peer support movement going on in the last number of years. It probably was available when I was really struggling and not able to string sobriety along, but I didn't know about it. And so the more that people do know that they have some other things available to them, then that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be helpful for someone. That's really amazing. Well, I think this kind of brings us to the end of the interview. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story, for your vulnerability, for all the advice that you gave, and for the resources that you provide. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you I appreciate the time of being able to tell a little of my story. And it's really the first opportunity. I mean, you tell your story all the time, right? Or you talk about it a little bit. But it's the first time I've been able to really kind of do something like this, and so it's probably was a little bit jumbled and rambled, but I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do it, and hopefully even if it rings true or something sounds, one person benefits, then
Mm-hmm.
that's great, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Takwa, for your time.
Yep.
Take care.